What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. Today we're going to be on Vivek Ramaswamy. This is an interview on the David Pakman show. I'm excited to check this one out because I've never actually, been able to take the time to sit down and see who Vivek Ramaswamy is. I've only just, from what I've seen, I know that he is, presidential candidate for the 2024 election. And people are saying that he's actually really good. Everyone's been telling me to, check him out, putting him in a comment section. So I'm excited to see what he's got to say. Let's get straight into it, guys. Make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel on the road to 10K, y'all. Like it before we even get into it. Just do it now. All right, let's do it.
I'm going to get right into what, fortunately or unfortunately, is often my first question when we speak to candidates right now. It's just sort of like a sanity check, which I think you will pass, honestly.
Let's hope.
Is there any way to interpret that Donald Trump actually won the 2020 election, or did he lose the 2020 election?
The way you're framing the question, you're asking me a very specific question. Is there any way? Here's one important unexplored strand. Okay. The Hunter Biden laptop story and its systematic suppression. I'm a data-driven guy.
Really?
I'm a data-driven guy, and I think you probably are too, based on
absolutely
what little I know. So look at the polling data on the aftermath and before and after. There are more than enough people, it's not even by a super small margin, that say they would have changed their vote had they been exposed to that information before that election. The fact is that was systematically suppressed in what was probably the single greatest form of election interference in American history.
And
there was a lot of discussion.
Words,
if I may just finish, just to get the full freight of my view here.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion about the legitimacy of the 2016 election on the back of Russian election interference that actually, it turns out, was actually much smaller scale than surmised. But on the day of Trump's inauguration, there was a lot of discussion. Hillary Clinton called the election result illegitimate and said that it was partly the product of Russian election interference. Whatever that was, that pales in comparison,
really
to the effect of the systematic suppression on domestic soil of a story that 2 years later, every news outlet in this country has absolutely admitted was indeed true when it was systematically suppressed at the time. So you asked the question, is there any basis? There's your basis.
And
Hey, hold on. Vivek, let him, he's spitting right now. He's spitting. Because I didn't even think about that, that aspect of it. And I don't think David Pakman did either, because you could see the look of, surprise on his face, or like he was getting behind his story. You know what I mean? Like I can see how, the details being suppressed from Hunter Biden's laptop, kind of, hiding that from the public. You would still vote for Biden, because he doesn't seem like he is that corrupt. He seems a little bit, and especially with the media painting Trump as the bad guy as they did. That laptop kind of, put, because it was hidden, it put Biden on a higher platform than it did Trump, because he was being pushed down and Biden was being pushed up. I think Trump definitely would have won if Hunter Biden's laptop would have been, out here for the public, like you said, on the poll rate showed that if they would have known, which it was available beforehand, but everyone was dismissing it. They were saying that the laptop was not actually Hunter's. You know what I mean? But it's, been proven to be true that it's his laptop. I feel like most people would not have voted for Joe Biden if they would have known the level of corruption he stands for.
So you asked the question, is there any basis? There's your basis.
And it is, do you have an opinion as to, is it the explicit pictures of Hunter that would have in some way changed people's minds, or?
Hold on, y'all. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I just laughed through my nose, and I'm not even gonna, bro, why would he say that? Like, obviously the pictures of Hunter Biden, like, I just pictured the pictures of Hunter Biden, like the ones of him, like, just laid out in the bed and stuff. I'm like, bro, why would you say that? Yes, that would have definitely swayed me not to vote for Joe Biden, bro. Seeing his son in that, those compromising positions. Let's be real.
Have an opinion as to, is it the explicit pictures of Hunter that would have in some way changed people's minds, or the as of yet unproven claims that Joe Biden is involved in some kind of bribery fraud scheme, or like what about it?
So I'm not speaking for the survey respondents, but I can tell you what speaks to me.
Yeah.
Actually, because I wouldn't have changed my vote. I voted for Trump, right? So I wasn't one of the survey respondents who said I would have changed my vote because of it.
Good.
So here's what does speak to me, and I think it's relevant. Let's just take this outside the scope of political partisanship. The Burisma payments to Hunter Biden are a deep problem. $5 million paid by a Ukrainian company, privately owned by somebody who at the time was sitting on the National Security Council in Ukraine. Relevant now because it did result in an impeachment of a U.S. president who called, that was Trump, who called for further investigation of that in Ukraine. But that wasn't the only geopolitical consequence of it. I think it has deep-seated implications even now for, say what many people on Russia's side of this say. Well, you have a U.S. president whose son was dealing, when that person was vice president, with actually the Ukrainian government indirectly, accepting what in any other context we would call bribes. So much so that President Obama's staff actually raised this with Biden, only to be shouted down by it. This is a bipartisan concern. That's a real issue. Also, the shell companies created to do business with China and the Chinese government, again, paid millions of dollars. That is relevant information on the eve of a presidential election, when the fourth largest newspaper in circulation, the New York Post, founded by Alexander Hamilton, had its social media accounts locked for publishing a story where you and I would have had our accounts locked for even sending it via direct message or email. So I do think we have to go back and reconcile ourselves with that, have to reckon with that, admit what went wrong if we're actually to move forward in the future. Sweeping that under the rug and relegating that to be the concern of rubes that live in the middle of the country and are election deniers, I think is the wrong approach for us to heal as a country. I think we have to reckon with the fact that we did that as a nation. The United States of America, we let that happen. Admit that. Now, my view is nations make mistakes. You can move forward if you understand those mistakes, but we have to be open about them.
So not to stay on this, but to summarize, in terms of a factual vote dumps or sandwiches and ballots under the table or vans backing in, Mike Lindell, cyber guys looking for bamboo fibers on the ballots. You're not talking about any of that. You're simply saying, had some people known about the allegations related to Hunter Biden at the time, enough people in some states might have changed their votes such that Trump would have gotten to 270. That's your position.
If that story had not been systematically top-down suppressed.
I gotcha.
I think there's good data to suggest it could have changed the result of the election. That's
okay,
correct.
Good. And the point, again, is not to debate it with you, but to get your position on the record. Good.
It's data-driven, so it's not really
I'm super interested in your campaign because you are right now one of the people that Donald Trump is saying nice things about in general. He mispronounces your name badly, Ramaswamy, which you may care about, you may not. That's for you to decide. But
it's been an affliction in my life, I will tell you. but I've grown used to it. Best efforts are what I appreciate.
He is generally saying the reason you're surging, he said this Saturday, is because you're actually mostly treating him well, treating him fairly, etc. You're roughly polling 5% right now. Real Clear Politics average, I'm sure there are anecdotal polls that have you higher and lower, but the Real Clear Politics average has you right around 5 right now.
I'm a distant third at 5.
You're a distant third at 5. You do seem to have taken a commanding position ahead of Mike Pence, though, and that we can talk about as well, maybe. My question is, from a practical standpoint, is your perspective on Trump calculated in order to sort of be there in case Trump really can't run a campaign because he gets arrested a third, a fourth, a fifth time, maybe even 6? Is the idea not to turn off the MAGA voter so that if Trump hits trouble, they go to you rather than maybe DeSantis or somebody else? Is that?
Hey, that's a good point to bring up right there. Like, because obviously, most, conservatives are going to vote for Trump. That's not even a doubt. Everyone's saying give him another term. But Vivek Ramaswamy would be the next best thing. I'm pretty sure Ron DeSantis, I've been seeing headlines of Ron DeSantis face planted. So I'm not sure if he's throwing in the towel or what's going on, but I've been hearing that Vivek Ramaswamy is the next best thing after Trump. So be excited to check this out, man. Like they're saying, if Trump, is keep hitting these obstacles and these kind of roadblocks, and they do slam him into jails, I feel like Vivek will be the next at play.
At a consideration.
It's not a political calculation. My whole political strategy in this race is to speak the truth, at least share my beliefs, tell the people who I am and what I stand for, and leave it to the voters to decide whether that's what they want.
Okay.
And so if I come out of this election where everybody in this country knows who I am and what I stand for, and that's not what they want, I'm at peace with that. I'm very much at peace with that. And that's exactly the system working as it should. The more I learn about and the experiences I have, the more difficult I realize how hard that is for certainly me and probably any other candidate to actually achieve that goal. But anyway, the reason I'm saying what I am is I actually do believe that Donald Trump was an effective president. He was an effective president, no doubt about it. I think he was a good president with whom I agree on most policy questions. The reason I'm in this race is that, A, I believe I can take that agenda even further than he did and unite the country in the process, because for whatever reason, and I don't blame him for this, but I think it's just a fact.
Okay.
That about 30% of this country becomes, I would say mentally ill in a certain form, psychiatrically ill.
I've heard you say that.
Yeah. They agree with things that they otherwise wouldn't have agreed with. They start disagreeing with things they otherwise would have agreed with just because he's saying them. And I think that for whatever reason, I'm not yet having that effect on people, and I don't think I will.
Oh, that was a Vivek Ramaswamy on David Pakman show. I thought the way Vivek spoke was very just insightful, informative. He provided insight on a different aspect of the whole Trump election fraud, just the whole situation, saying that the hidden evidence from, Joe Biden, his cabinet, his boy, his Hunter, the laptop and, the bribery and, the shell companies, all of that stuff played a factor. If that would have been brought to light, I feel like the election definitely would have been a little bit more fair. Joe wouldn't have won by such a big. They're saying that Joe, had the most votes ever. You know what I mean? And I don't believe that could or would have been true had this evidence been shown to everyone. You know what I mean? I'm excited to see more of Vivek Ramaswamy because honestly, he's a very brilliant guy. I think he's up there on my candidates list too. We're gonna see where he goes in the future. We're gonna continue to cover him as we move forward. Also, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10K, y'all. I'll catch y'all next week.